Hi, everybody. Well, I've run into some incredible films this week. I'm bleary-eyed, watching. I'm not even going to mention all of them, but it just so happens I stopped by a red box because I was waiting for several films to come out and wanted to be there the minute I could get my hands on them. The Rider has been out. But I did want to mention Redbox because a couple of people asked me about it. You know, red boxes are just absolutely everywhere. And normally, you know, it doesn't really matter where you get the films, stream them or not. The reason that I love Redbox is it's even faster than Netflix for a disc. You get a disc, and on the disc, you get all these extra features, which I love and I think should be required if you're going to watch a film, but of course I'm a little kooky. But that's why I like Redbox. You can see these films streamed, great. But if you're at the supermarket and there's a Redbox and they're all over the place, it's $1.75. It started out being $1, it's now $1.75. But you get it for 24 hours. And watch it on your DVD, and it makes the experience so much greater. Okay, so that's all about Redbox. Let's get back to The Rider. I had heard about this film on NPR, which does a great job of advertising all these films that we see, independent, foreign, getting the word out. So I was watching for it. I did not, unfortunately, unhappily, get to see it in a theater. But I do know somebody who did and said that the photography was simply breathtaking. It's all shot on the Lakota Indian Reservation in South Dakota. These are the actors, people in the film, are all Native American. At first that's a little surprising because they don't look like our stereotypical idea. They look like all of us. But they are all, some look much more Indian, so you can understand that, but it was a little surprising. But what's more surprising is the writer, creator, director, the person who thought this whole thing up, who is Chloe, let me pronounce her last name correctly, Chloe Zhao. She's Chinese from Beijing. And she herself went to NYU. She left Beijing at 14. So she's basically an expat. She's lived in Paris, she's lived in London. She's now in the United States. She happens to live with the DP, the director of photography of this film. So they work very closely together. They live closely together, I assume. They're working as a team. She says, this is interesting, that she was brought up in cities. Beijing, my God, if you've been there, I mean, it is just a mass of humanity. So she longed for open spaces. She longed to make a film in a setting that is totally non-city. And so her first film was filmed in South Dakota. That came about because she got financing and she got lucky, and it was a very good film. This film also is filmed in South Dakota. This is filmed on the Native American reservation. What she did is a little questionable to me, but I'm coming round to it, I think, but I had to think about it. She used all Native American residents of this area. The lead actor is a rodeo rider. I mean, he certainly was. She used him. He's a non-professional actor, although you would never believe it. From the facial, from the body, from his presence on screen, I have other thoughts about the lines delivered. Not only did she use him, she used his story, modified. As he says later, 60% is truth. We're talking movie making, so 40% is, you know, arranged to make the film flow, to give the story and arc. Our lives are not all that dramatic, but when we put it on film, we better make it dramatic, and it's got to fit in 90 minutes. So therefore, 60% of it, he says, is truthfully his life. This is really his father, really his sister, who does have a brain abnormality. She's not, you know, in any way non-functional, but you can tell when she talks. So the family is real. His best friend, who was very badly injured, is real. The friends are real. All these people are real. And the line between truth and fiction just wavers a little bit, and we don't worry about it. But the truth is that this young man Brady is truly a gifted actor. He's got the face, he's got the body, and his story is dramatic, and it's what you will see. If you have not seen the film, it's what you will see in the film. And he was very, very seriously injured in a rodeo accident. Now, just to bring up the rodeo, because we get to see what a brutal sport this is. It's like all sports, it seems to me, except tennis. No, I'm only kidding, but it's like all body sports where you throw your body against another person or an animal. This is brutal. And, you know, you take your life in your hands. So it's an extremely dangerous sport. But seeing this, thinking South Dakota, these are kids who have grown up. I'm not going to say they didn't have any choice, but this is a culture that is so strong there, and there are not that many other choices for lifestyles, let's say. And they may choose, they do choose it, and this is their lifestyle of choice. It's very interesting for me, maybe for you too, to watch this, to see. Then she layers on top of this the absolute beauty of this country's, it's so exquisite. And believe me, her director of photography makes us love it. There's the culture of the horse, which is a whole other discussion. But we are seeing, if I could say, a primitive way of life. But we're seeing contemporary young men dealing with a primitive way of life. To me, it also was a look at people. I don't care if you're a cowboy or if you're a doctor or a dancer, whatever. We all run up in life against these huge obstacles where it's sort of like adapt or drop out. Or, I mean, he puts it in terms of Brady. I'm a cowboy. I got to be a cowboy or he'd rather really die. And this is another issue to think about. To me, adaptability is everything. If you can't be a cowboy, your obligation is to find some other way to live. That's my personal belief. So, she is there with this crew, with very little money. They are shooting, I think they did it in 20 days. It is a miraculous, just from production-wise, you know, because his hair has to be cut. They figured out what they would do is the scenes where he had no hair, do them at the end of the film, because they had 20 days, they had enough money to do that. She came up with, okay, New York Times, Scott feels this is a total masterpiece. There's just one other thing that I want to say that I feel, and I'm going to read you then what Scott thought, and a little quote from her. To me, it is sort of a mystical film. Because of the way she did this, mixed almost documentary with narrative, it is almost like you are watching these people make huge decisions about their lives, and you are in awe, because these are decisions that, this is not like, shall we sell the house or not? Shall we retire or not? Shall I go to this school or that school? What kind of car do I want to drive? These are enormous decisions, and these are barely educated kids, and you're sort of privy to being there to look at their faces and follow along, because they're not that articulate. But it's a tremendous experience, I think, to see the film. Okay, so to stop listening to me, whoop. Okay, I just wanted to read you this wonderful quote from Chloe Zhao, the Chinese director. She said, "I'm not interested in making a film for a niche audience. I want to make films about people that we don't usually see, but for a wider audience so that they can all relate to it." So, I mean, she set herself quite a huge task. And I think she succeeded. And it's not a film for everybody. And I read, you know, you read a couple of these, and people said, yawn, yawn, nothing happens in this movie, I fell asleep. I mean, that's not who she's going for. You just discount that. Okay, but I did want to read you another quote. Okay, so here she is talking about, because I find it fascinating that a Chinese young director, well, she's not that young, but a Chinese director who went to NYU Film School. I mean, it's not like she's in her 20s when I say that young. Anyway, 50, I think she is, or her late 40s. How she felt about this. She says, "I like different things. I was raised on, we didn't have movies in China when I was growing up. We had anime, Japanese. So I was raised on that stuff. And I always had a love for comic books, and I was raised on Hollywood movies, no art house. So everything's possible. But I wonder if there's a way to bring what I learned making The Rider. You can't take the whole method, because every film has its own specific method. And really, as a director, that's your job. Hopefully you have a producer that's good enough to listen to you and come up with these ideas. But to find that chemistry, that nature of what this project needs, and I wonder there's a little bit of that stuff that we've learned from making this film. Authenticity, sacrificing some of maybe what was my vision to get something that's really authentic between other people. I may not be able to do this little plot twist that I had in mind, but to do that, I would have to bring more of the bigger movie into it. And a bigger movie is maybe a different movie. And the audience that I'm trying to reach is the audience that will see this film. I think that's very interesting. These are not the words of some ultra ambitious, I want to be famous. This is a movie maker. She wants to make movies, do art. Okay, so I know I talk a lot, and I'm now going to the New York Times review. Okay, so here is the review from the New York Times, which is a rave, to put it mildly. The Rider, this is the headline, The Rider is an American regional film to savor. It's another thing to think about. These are regional movies. The thing to hold in your mind is that these movies are not made for multiplexes. They're not made for these huge audiences, and these people know it. Okay, there's a special pleasure. It's A.O. Scott. There's a special pleasure in observing a thing done well. I like that. In several long, crucial scenes in the middle of The Rider, Chloe Zhao's beautiful second feature, we look on as a young man named Brady Blackburn trains horses, including Apollo, a stubborn, high-spirited colt. A rodeo champion recovering from a serious head injury, Brady understands the animals in a way that suggests both long practice and natural intuition. His total absorption in the task at hand, his graceful combination of discipline and talent, his unshowy confidence in his own skills, all these are signs that we are watching an artist at work. Now, I'm going to send you the review, so I'm not going to read the whole review, but I just want to read something else. From time to time, Brady visits his friend Lane, played by the real Lane, whose exploits in and out of the rodeo ring have made him legend among the other riders. Lane is now paralyzed and unable to speak. Brady helps him with physical therapy, exercises that mimic sitting up in the saddle and holding onto the reins. I just found this so poignant. They watch old videos of memorable rides, and it is their refusal to feel sorry for themselves which makes these scenes together heartbreaking. And that is a huge thing that runs through this. Nobody wallows in sadness, as he says in the review. We just watch people coping with life, and these are big things to cope with. Just a couple of things more I want to tell you. I find it extremely ironic, and of course the filmmakers had to withhold this for the drama, because you're making a drama. But Lane, the whole time you're watching the movie, you of course assume that Lane is there, having been destroyed by his body, almost destroyed by a horse in the rodeo. And here's the irony of it all, which will give you something else to think about. Lane's injury was a result of an automobile accident. Drunk driver, I believe, driving right into him head on. I think that's the best way I could end this. I mean, there's a lot to think about here. It is just a beautiful movie. If you haven't seen it, see it for it physically, but for all the hidden nuance, and that this young woman had the courage to make a movie like this, mixing fiction, nonfiction, documentary. It's terrific. I'll see you next week.